Hey, welcome to the kickoff episode of My Favorite Cap, the expanded version of 90-second recap, where we're able to dig in a little deeper than we can in a minute and a half. Normally, the interviewee will be wearing their favorite cap, but today the interviewer is wearing the interviewee's favorite cap. I'm thrilled to be joined today by the incomparable Mark Grant, the color voice of the San Diego Padres. Mud, how you doing?
Cooper, how you doing there, big boy? It's good to talk to you. I know we've got a lot to talk about, but it's been a while, and I love what you're doing, man, with the caps because I'm a uniform geek. I'm a hat geek,
I did
and
not know that.
I didn't. Yeah, I the intricacies of uniforms and the evolution of uniforms and how teams go back and forth. I'm a big fan.
I didn't realize that. So you actually brought up a really good point when we were talking about this, the fact that this cap
Mhm.
is not a cap that was so it had a long run. It had an 11-year run, but it was not the cap for it was the cap. I think it was the second year. I think it was introduced in 83. You came up in 84.
Right.
But tell me a little bit more about the cap geekiness and the uniform geekiness.
Well, if you notice on that cap, it doesn't have that's more of a rounded type SF. It doesn't have like on the corners, like the S and the F. It doesn't have like the indented part. Those are rounded corners on the S and on the F. And I remember because I was drafted by the Giants in 81. So I kept track of the big league club and their uniforms. And I loved when they had the black top, the orange top, and the white top, and they always wore the white pants. If you remember in 83, they went to the white with the different font Giants across the chest.
So
And then on
that to me is the Johnny LeMaster font. I don't know why I remember that as Johnny
Really? Yeah, yeah,
LeMaster.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Johnny was a teammate of mine in '84, and I was hoping that because I love that script, the big G with the Giants in the script. I was hoping I was gonna make it to the big leagues to wear that uniform because I really love that uniform, but obviously, '83 was the first year of that hat and the different Giants font, and then the SF, they went almost like New York Yankee, NY. On the road uni, they went gray, piping, and then the SF on the left chest, which I thought was really, really cool. I thought that was a really cool looking uniform. So that's the one I got to wear.
And so that uni to me, and I might be getting this wrong, but that uni to me speaks Robbie Thompson. How long did that work?
Yeah,
How,
RT wore that. RT's first year in the big leagues was '86. I think Will Clark's first year Will Clark made his debut, first at bat of the season, Astrodome home run off of Nolan Ryan. I was in AAA Phoenix, so I did not break camp with the team that year. But no, Robbie Thompson. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just saw Will Clark in San Francisco last time we were there, and we were reminiscing. Will and I were roommates in San Francisco for a little bit. So, yeah, that screams Will Clark and RT. Absolutely. No question.
did they even did the rooms, did they have beds when you guys were roommates, or did you ever use them?
Bunk beds. Yeah. You know what? Back in the day, if you were a rookie, you didn't get your own room. So I roomed with Matt Williams on occasion, Will Clark. Will and I roomed together in San Francisco in an apartment in Burlingame. And then on the road, I don't know if Will got his own room or not, but Matty Williams and I and Scott Gereltz, we roomed together on occasion. So, and then as time went on, if you had more time in the big leagues, you would get it in your contract that you get your own room. But then it came later, I think in 1980, late 80s, I believe, to where in the CBA, where it came down to where every player is going to get his own room, and that's where we stand today.
And what's your take on that? Is that a good thing or not? I
I
read a
think,
lot.
yeah, I can't room with me. Imagining me rooming with you ain't gonna happen. Ain't
Right,
gonna
but
happen.
but
No,
but hey, we're in our 50s, maybe a little bit older than that.
I'm
For
60 now, big boy. I'm
I
60.
know I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to out you. But if you're a 22, 23-year-old kid coming up, do you think there's any benefit to still having roommates, or
I,
do guys spend enough time together on the
yeah,
road that it doesn't really matter?
good question. I think it's subjective. I think the NHL still has roommates. I think guys in the NHL still, and those guys, man, you talk about a brotherhood there. The camaraderie in the NHL is just, I think it's unmatched. I don't hang with the guys, the players. I'm my own separate thing. Being a part of the broadcast team, I see the guys occasionally, but as far as hanging out and stuff like that, I really couldn't answer that. But I think there could be some benefit for a young guy You know, it's almost like the Bull Durham thing, right? Hey, Crash, you're going to take care of Nuke, right?
Right.
And I think it could be subjective to where at times it could be beneficial for if there was roommates for a veteran guy to maybe take a young guy under his wing and help him out. Sure, but I prefer I, I prefer rooming by myself.
I'm with you on that. Well, so
Yeah.
so you mentioned Will Clark. So you came up in '84.
Right.
Were you were up and down a little bit between Phoenix and SF. Spent '85 in Phoenix, and then you were back up in '86. When did Will come up?
Will made his major league debut in 1986. He was drafted out of Mississippi State, first round pick. And like I said, I broke camp. I started in 86 with Phoenix, our AAA affiliate. Will made the club, and I think he was the #1 pick in 85. I'd have to check that. I think he's the #1 pick in 85. Yeah, the draft. And then he spent some time in the minor leagues. Next year, spring training, made the club. And first at bat, Nolan Ryan, Astrodome, bam, center field. And one to this day, I mean, great teammate, played hard, gamer, and this guy, one of the sweet, and you well know, Mike, one of the sweetest left-handed swings. I mean, ever.
Oh, yeah,
If you think of left-handed swings, it's Ken Griffey Jr., it's Will Clark, you know, George Brett had a sweet swing. I mean, we can go on and on, but man, he was fun to watch.
So I understand that Will got something that you might have had or at least wanted, and it resulted in you maybe having to change your number.
Oh yeah, 22 was my favorite number. I wore it at Joliet Catholic as a senior. I think I wore it my junior year as well. So my last year in 22, for some reason, it's got a good look. At 22, it's even both numbers. It's nice and square. It's nice and there's no curves or anything as far as like you know, as far as a block number is concerned. Jack Clark had it before Will Clark.
Oh,
Yeah, so Jack wore 22, and he got called
this
up.
this wasn't Mike Murphy just reusing a uniform,
Right,
was
right.
it?
That was kind of the joke. Murph, our clubhouse attendant at the time, who I saw in San Francisco recently, you know,
He's the best.
oh my gosh, he is. I mean, he started as a San Francisco Seals bat boy, and then worked his way up to run the home clubhouse, and was there for what, over 50 years or so. So, but a great story, a great guy, one of the best. And I wanted 22, so I remember kind of trying to lobby for that number, and then all of a sudden, here comes this kid, Will Clark, and they issue him 22. So then, do you know the story regarding 55?
So I've read what you supposedly said about how you ended up with 55.
Yeah, if you flip 22 upside down, it's 55. So that's why I think 55 is a cool number too, because it kind of has the same type of look. Uniform, each number, no difference in each number. And you know what? Mark Davis and I had a discussion too, because Mark Davis, the Cy Young Award winning left-handed closer for the Padres in '89, he and I were traded from the Giants to the Padres. So MD and I are very good friends. And he said, you know what, Mud? He goes, 55 is a cool number. And he goes, yeah. He goes, Oral Hershiser wears it, and that's maybe a number you should take. So I did. I took it, and then I came up with the idea how you know, actually 22 upside down is 55. So
Right. No, it's brilliant. What did you
wear? Point out my career was turned upside down.
What did you wear? Do you remember what you came up in '84?
Yeah, Mike. You know, if you look at my baseball reference page, you know how they have these numbers of guys on it. I have. It's like a lottery ball display. I came up with number 34. I love 34, and I'll tell you why I wore number 34 is because Bill Gullickson. When
okay. I immediately thought about Walter Payton, but yeah. So Joliet Catholic, Bill Gullickson, who predated you by 2 years, 3 years.
He was a graduating senior when I was an incoming freshman. And
got it. Okay, so 4 years.
Yeah, I heard all about Gully, and he was like my idol growing up. And when he got called up to the Expos in, I think it was 1980. I think it was 80. He wore 34. So I thought, I want to be like Gully. So my first big league number with the Giants was 34.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So 55 to me is no longer a high number. Back in the
Right.
day,
How
it was
about
a high
that?
number. There was one guy that sticks out in my mind who you look, a little bit like him. You remember Dave Heverlow?
Oh, I know Tuna. I know Tuna. Yeah,
Remember
absolutely.
what remember what number he wore?
He wore 60.
Right. And he was like the only guy wearing
Yes.
60.
Yeah. Tuna used to run the Giants fantasy camps, and that's how I got to know him. Dave Heverlow.
Oh,
He's from the Tacoma area, Seattle area. And wow, you talk about a guy with a sense of humor. And oh man, he would be the judge in our kangaroo courts. And whew, yeah, funny's funny. And he was funny. Held nothing back. So yeah, Tuna was great. And you're right, Mike, because it's like Dylan Cease now. Now 84 he wears 84 again with the Padres. Of course, I think messed that up or started to is the Yankees. The Yankees, what number 1 through 20 is retired.
well, they're all retired, right?
I know I exaggerate, but it's like now if you're Aaron Judge is 99, and we can go on and on. There's a lot of relievers with higher numbers, but that seems to be a trend nowadays.
So think back to Al Oliver, right?
Love it, Scoop. Yeah, he was a teammate of mine. Yeah.
And there's another guy who might have been a teammate of yours. Who's the only guy ever to wear a leading 0 on his uniform?
Hackman, Jeffrey Leonard.
09.
What's that?
Who wore 09?
Oh, Benito Santiago. Yeah.
Right. Another great former Padre. I mean, he's
Right.
the only guy I think in history to have worn a 0 prior to a regular number.
Right. And the reason why he did that, do you know the reason?
I probably read it, but no, fill me in.
Because the chest protector had a strap down the middle, and it was obscuring the number 9, and he wanted to go 09 so that the strap in the middle, you could see the 09.
That's brilliant.
And then, of course, Hackman, Jeffrey Leonard, one flap down, wore 00 with the Giants. So yeah, it's little stuff like that. In fact, I'm going off on a tangent here real quick. Speaking because I'm a uniform geek, and I love this year. Have you noticed what the Yankees have done on their road unis?
I have not.
They eliminated the white background on the letters, and it looks like back to the 50s and 60s, and it's awesome. They don't have the white border. It's gray with just block New York in the dark navy. There's no white border anymore. And
interesting.
It looks awesome.
I'm going to have to check it out. I actually did a piece on the 22nd, which was the first day that the Yankees wore navy blue pinstripes on their home unis, which was the opener in 1915. But no, I've got to check this out. Yeah. Chris Creamer's blog, certainly I check out on a regular basis for uniforms. Yeah. There's so much good stuff out there to dig into.
I know. And another thing about my uniform geekness is that Babe Ruth never wore the NY or Yankee or on the home. He never had the NY. It was just a straight pinstripe. And on the road uniform, it said Yankees.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. So Babe Ruth never wore the NY on his chest.
Huh.
It was too early for that yet.
Interesting. One of the things in doing the research for the episode that I shot on the 22nd about the Yankees pinstripes is it's apocryphal. People always say, well, they trotted out the pinstripes to make the Babe look thinner. Well, they actually dropped, they threw pinstripes out there in 1912. They were black. They didn't last very long.
Yeah.
New ownership comes in 15. They introduced the navy blue pinstripes, which honestly, I think most people think those are black pinstripes, right? They don't look navy blue.
Right.
But yeah, so the Babe never wore NY on the home uniform.
I believe that's a fact. Yeah. Cause I dug into that, and and if you look at old photos of him, it's just like the onesie pajama. It's just the pinstripes. And then when you look on a road uniform, it says Yankees in block letters across the chest. So,
interesting.
Now there might be photos of him later, like when he was retired, like maybe Old Timers Day or something, where he wore but I think his playing days, he did not wear the NY on his chest.
Huh. That's a really good data point. The type of data points that we can uncover here when we've got more than 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take you back uniform wise. I think back to Joliet Catholic. You graduate in 1981. I believe, was that the year that you guys wore the all whites?
No, we had my senior year. We wore the old early 1970s San Diego Padres style. White chest.
Oh, interesting.
Brown shoulders. And then it said hilltoppers across the front, and it had the thick yellow, brown, white piping on the side.
Got
So
it.
it was white torso, brown sleeve insert, and then the white pants, of course.
Got it.
That was our uniform. Yeah. And then
Got
of
it.
course name and number on the back, which was very cool. I mean, having your name on your uniform in high school, right? It's the best, right?
It was the best. Well, so it's funny you mentioned uniforms. So summer between my junior and senior years at Joliet Catholic, we wore the uniforms that we had worn the previous year. Sorry, it was between sophomore and junior years, and all it said across the front was Catholic.
Okay.
And one of my teammates, Jay Cosgrave, his cousin was hosting an exchange student from Ireland, and she came out to a game and was utterly shocked that we would be representing ourselves by religion because the troubles were going on in Ireland, in Northern Ireland right then.
Right.
And they had explained to her, it's like, no, they're not repping who they are. They're repping their
Right.
school. They're not repping the religion. But
now what year did you graduate?
I was 86.
Okay, because there were, I mean, you know how uniforms are handed down all the time, except the ones who had our name on the back. The ones you're talking about were worn by my freshman year. In fact, I wore those one year because it was my freshman year. I pitched for Larry McKeon as a sophomore on the JV team, and then my sophomore, junior, senior year, I wore the other one. But that one you're talking about in particular was worn by the JV team, the sophomore team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, from the small world, is people from Joliet or in and around Joliet know, it is a very small world there. Larry grew up behind me.
Did he really?
Yeah. His dad was a butcher and used to bring bones home for our dog.
No kidding. I saw him at the latest alumni banquet back
which I missed, which I was bummed. I hear that you and Mike Veck had a really good chat.
Mike was great, and his son Night Train was there. It was just I think they're gonna do wonderful things for the Joliet Slammers there. I think it's gonna be great.
I hope so. And I think they open their season. I think it's less than a month. I feel like it's May 19th.
Yeah.
Right around then is when the Slammers open.
Yeah.
So let me set the stage. Let me go back to Joliet and kind of how you and I met.
Sure.
So fall of 1985, I'm a senior at Joliet Catholic, and I've got second period study hall. And the proctor is a guy named Mr. Mahalik. And Mr. Mahalik, his first name is Brian. Brian has a younger brother named Chris, who's a freshman. I had dropped pre-calculus. Mr. Golf's class was a little too difficult for me.
Mr. Golf, wow.
So I'm the only upperclassman in this study hall in the cafeteria. And there's an opportunity to sit with the Mahalik brothers, one a teacher, one a freshman, and go over USA Today sports and look at box scores and talk sports. So
this is at the old building.
This is at the old building. So this is not an environment that's real conducive to getting studying done there in second period.
It never was.
Brian Mahalik, now in his 14th year as the head coach at the storied University of St. Francis baseball program. Chris would go on and pitch 16 years of pro ball after graduating from Notre Dame. But so that fall of 85, it turns out the Mahaliks have a cousin who is coming in to work out at Joliet Catholic during the offseason once his baseball season gets done. And that's where I meet Mark Grant. Mark comes in and hangs out in our study hall. The four of us sit at this table, and Brian and Chris and I don't say a word because just as you can do today, you command the room, and I consider myself fortunate to have been able to sit and listen to what were largely minor league stories at that point.
Yeah. You know what, Mike, it's you just mentioning that scenario and that building and that room brings back so many memories. How good were those cinnamon donuts that they made in the cafeteria? If somebody could find that recipe and open up a little shop, it would be a gold mine. But Brian, yes, Brian. In fact, I just talked to Chris last night, actually. He's pitching coach for AAA Colorado Rockies in Albuquerque. For the Rockies.
That's gotta be a tough job at altitude. I remember the Dodgers down there hitting, guys hitting 60, 70, 80 home runs a year, it seemed like.
Yeah, it's rough. But no, Brian and Chris, my dad and their mom were brother and sister. So we grew up family functions, birthdays, holidays. I mean, those guys are like brothers to me. Love them dearly. And I mean, still today, I could pick up the phone and call those guys and we could yuck it up for a half hour and just laugh. But that cafeteria, Mike, so many memories. Remember, did you still have the jukebox there when you were?
No, so I
They
think
took the
that went
jukebox
out when
out.
I think I was a sophomore when they took it out.
We had a juke. Listen to this. We had a jukebox in the cafeteria, and also we had a senior lounge. The administration,
which was gone by the time I got there.
because of this class.
I'm not surprised.
We had a senior lounge to where it was on the first floor across from the dean's office, to where it had a pinball machine, couches, and we would go there and just, oh my gosh, we would tear stuff up and it would be just a ruckus. I heard a ruckus. Can you describe the ruckus?
Can you
sir?
describe the ruckus?
But anyway, no, some good memories, great memories.
Well, so it's it's funny that year the Bears go to the Super Bowl, they win it 46-10 over the Patriots. So we had an uprising as seniors, or what consisted of an uprising for some good upstanding Catholic youth at Joliet Catholic in 1986. But we took over the cafeteria and we all ended up wearing headbands. I recently learned that in the summer of '86, in response to something that Al Rosen said, you donned a headband.
I did. Al Rosen was quoted in, and I loved Al. I can go on and on about that as well. He was our general manager.
Al Rosen, general manager of the Giants.
Of the Giants. He was quoted in the offseason as saying, Mark Grant has $1 million arm, but a 10-cent brain. So the Jim McMahon thing, Super Bowl Roselle, and then I took it a step further, and I had a headband. I put 10-cent brain on it, and that had a run. And I do remember this. I don't know if you know this part or not, but after it came out and stuff, I remember talking to my grandmother at the time, my dad's mom, who lived to 102, by the way. And she was kind of like, oh, Mark, that's not nice what he said about that. And it kind of, at first I was like, oh, Nana, it's okay, whatever. But it kind of struck me. And you know what? And Al Rosen and I had a great relationship after this. It's not that we had a bad relationship prior, but when he said that, I said, Al, I'd like to speak, Mr. Rosen, I'd like to speak with you, please. It was in Phoenix. He was making a trip down there. So we sat in the stands outside the dugout. I said, I just want to say that, your quote in Baseball America, it kind of offended, you could say what you want, but it kind of filtered down to my family. And my grandmother was kind of offended by it. And he kind of looked at me like, and I said, I just want to let you know that it affected me and it affected some of it. He goes, well, Mark, he goes, I apologize. And from that point on, Al Rosen and I had the best relationship. And I understand where he was going. I mean, Al wanted the best for everybody. He was a heck of a player himself, had a great career, and he was a gamer too. I mean, this guy was a hard-nosed player back in his day, and he just wanted he wanted to get the best out of guys. I probably could have went a different route, but hey, I understood where he was coming from. Respect the heck out of Al Rosen, love the man dearly, and so that's where that all came about.
But kudos to you. This is '86, so you're 22 years old then to step up and have that conversation.
Yeah, it took a lot. It really did, Mike. But because I'm not a confrontational guy, I just I'm just not that type. But it got to the point where it was like, I got to say something, and I talked to some friends about it. And somebody said, yeah, don't be combative about it, and don't lose your cool about it. Just kind of get the point across. I did, and we left that conversation shaking hands. And I tell you that when Mr. Rosen was still alive before he passed away, I would call him once during the off season and just say, hey, how you doing? Checking in. And I'll never forget one time I called him and we chatted for about 15-20 minutes. And his last words to me were, you know what, Mark, thank you so much for calling. You just made an old man's day. And you know what?
That's awesome.
That really, that resonated with me. And that's something I try to do during the off seasons. It's like, I think about my baseball career and the people who were influential, and I get on the horn, I'll just give them a call, just say hi. And it's really, if there's anything I would tell people to do, it's that. We're not getting any younger, and just to reach out, it's amazing what a phone call can do to someone who really was influential in your life. And
so that's a great segue. So the guy who I may get choked up a little bit as I talk about this. You know, the most influential baseball guy in my life was my dad.
Yeah,
Just as I'm sure your dad was. We know what
absolutely.
a great dude Larry Grant was.
Yeah,
But after that, Jack Szymanski.
yeah. Ski was great. You know, Mike, I lost my dad a couple of years ago, and he was just he was the best. He was my favorite catcher of all time. His best catcher ever. My dad didn't say boo. Now I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
But Ski is right up there, man. I could call Jack Szymanski right now on my phone, and we could talk about the old times. He still has scorebooks. Hey, Ski, what did I do against West that outing? And
Yeah.
he let me go get my score. He's got all his scorebooks from back in high school. So, but no, Ski's great. He was a great coach. He's a great man. He had a sense of humor. He knew how to push guys a certain way. He knew how to encourage guys a certain way. And he was a heck of a math teacher. I know I wasn't smart enough to take Ski's classes, but he was one of the best math teachers, along with Mr. Golf, by the way, to teach math.
What I'd be remiss. So the guys that I played for at Joliet Catholic, in addition to Ski, Dan McCarthy, Sheen, Mike Slovic, and then Carl
Sure.
Hunkler. Who were your guys while you were there?
Freshman year, I played sophomore with Larry McEwen.
Yeah.
And then my 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior, were all Ski. My first year as varsity was Ski's first year as varsity coach, because Roger Gifford. Do you remember Roger Gifford?
I remember the name. I mean, he was there for
Yeah.
a very long time.
Yeah, he was the varsity coach before Ski.
Sorry, he was active for a very long time. Did he spend time at West, or am I thinking of Mr. Leslie?
You're thinking of Mr. Leslie, Leroy Leslie.
Got it. Gully's father-in-law, right?
Father-in-law, yes, absolutely. Yeah, Gully married Sandy, who went to West, who now lives in Florida, by the way. But no, Roger Gifford was, to me as a freshman, I remember seeing him in the gym, and he was very intimidating. That's what I always remember about him. And then Ski was very regimented, as you well know, with his practices and stuff. It ran a great practice, and just fun to be around, even to this day. He's great.
Well, and you may or may not be aware. I happen to see this on Facebook the other day. I keep up with Ski, and I keep up with Tom Kennedy. You know, Stretch played with my dad, and
Sure.
Tommy Deeden, Ed Spezio, some of those guys.
Yeah.
Stretch just published a book about Gordy Gillespie, which I've not gotten my hands on it yet, but I intend to. And I saw that he and Ski and a number of the old Joliet baseball old guard got together at Semino's for lunch last week.
Yeah, it's really a great group when you think about Joliet through the years and the people who have been influential. I remember my dad went to Lewis. He played on Gordy's first basketball team. Now, my dad was 21 at Lewis. Then he went to U of I, became an architect, but he played on Gordy's first basketball team. Now, granted, Gordy was only 24, 25 at the time. He started coaching very, very early. And so that was the connection between Gordy and my dad. And then fast forward, I come along Saturday mornings. I remember my dad always took me down to the pit in the fall to watch the Joliet Catholic football team practice.
Yeah.
We live right down Fairlane Drive, and we'd go to the stadium, and they had practice in the pit. And I remember always going down there, and I think these guys are so huge. These guys are hitting so hard, and Gordy's yelling and coaching and stuff. And that's where we first met. I must have been 6, 7 years old, maybe, going down there and meeting Gordy for the first time. I remember Gordy gave me a quarter. He reached in his pocket, gave me a quarter. He goes, "Here, put this towards your college education." I still remember that. I still remember that.
And for folks that don't know Gordy Gillespie, he's since been surpassed, but he held the record for the most victories by a college baseball coach.
Yes.
And the guys that Mark and I and legions of kids in and around Joliet played for all cut their coaching teeth. Guys like Jack Szymanski, Dan McCarthy, Carl Hunkler, Mike Slovic, they cut their teeth playing for Gordy. And I struggle as a high school umpire, and it pains me seeing the antics of some of the coaches these days, because it's not what you and I grew up with in terms of just respect, simple respect for the game.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. It really is. Now that you mention that, I think of going to football games, going to baseball games, and seeing Gordy, and even my dad, even even my dad never barked at an umpire, never. And if he did say something, maybe it was just get the point, get out, but never embarrassing or man, God, that you just triggered memories of good coaching and what coaches should do, because that filters down to the players. And you look at those players you just mentioned, like McCarthy and Szymanski and Slovic, who played for, they were kind of, out of the same mold as far as coaches and stuff like that. But that's I never thought of it that way. That's a great point.
To me, it's multi-generational, right? The game is multi-generational.
Yeah.
Dads pass it on to kids, pass it on to their kids. I think if you grow up in what I tell people is the Gordy system, right? I mean, I'm a Gillespie disciple. I never played for Gordy,
Yeah.
but I played for the guys that played for him. And I am trying to pass on to the kids that I'm coaching, 13-year-old travel softball players. I'm trying to organize my practices like I learned from
Yeah.
Ski. And I'm
Right.
sure Ski learned that from Gordy.
Yeah. You know what? Gordy was such a humble man. I remember I was a senior in high school, I think. Juniors, maybe in sophomore, junior, whatever, it doesn't matter. Channel 7, Tim Weigel was coming down from Chicago with a camera crew because we were in the state playoffs and the football team. And we had a pep rally in the gym. And I remember before they started recording, Gordy said to everybody, he goes, I don't want any of this finger wagging, we're number one stuff in the camera. We want to show respect. And that stuck with me because that's just the way he was. He wasn't a showboat.
Right.
He did his talking with his coaching and his players on the field. And when you look at those football teams, they were machines, man. They were run like fine machines, oiled and tuned up. And I mean, the one thing that sticks out to me, the one year of the playoffs, I think it was my sophomore year, in the state playoffs, the football team, the opponents didn't score.
Right.
In all the games.
Right.
In the 4 games in the playoffs.
Yeah, 1978, the fourth of 4 state
They did not
championships.
score. They shut them out in 4 games. And that's remarkable. But no,
Well,
that's the way Gordy worked.
And I take, and I don't know if Gordy said it, it may be apocryphal, but what I try to pass on to the players that I coach is, one, always have a good time, but act like you've been here before.
Sure.
Right. So that's why it bugs me, the guy that lifted his leg in a football game a few years ago that ended up costing them the game. I mean, I just look at some of that stuff in, to your point about Joliet Catholic producing football teams that are machines. Gordy knew how to get the best out of guys because, not that Ski and other coaches at Joliet Catholic haven't gotten the best out of their baseball players, but there's a long history of success in professional baseball from guys that played at Joliet Catholic. There's not a big history of success in football. And I think guys punched above their weight for a very long time and continue to do so because outside of Mike Allstott, Tom Thayer, there aren't a lot of guys that have gone on to NFL success after coming out of Joliet Catholic where they had a good football career.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to say about Gordy teaching the fundamentals of the game and teamwork too. He took a player who was maybe a little, not really the most athletic, but pumped him up in a way to put him in a position to where he would succeed. And also the phrase that, and I guarantee you talk to guys who played for him back in the day, the old phrase, a coach that you'd run through a brick wall for. That just epitomizes
without a doubt. And frankly, I only played baseball at Joliet Catholic, aside from one very ill-fated season in football where I learned that as a football player, I should stick to baseball. But yeah, I mean, I would run through a wall for any of my coaches from there because they were molders of men.
Yeah. It was a great experience. I mean, I always tell people, I can get on my phone right now and call Mac. I can call Ski. I can call teammates of mine and just, talk for hours. I mean, like we're doing right now. And it's that to me, that's the thing that that's most important to me as far as like the friendships and stuff like that. So thanks to those men who we had
Absolutely.
growing up to give us that to pass on.
So you come out of Joliet Catholic, where you're a leader on the team. You're a leader in the state, 10th overall pick in the first round of the '81 draft. You go to Great Falls, Montana.
Yeah.
Second youngest guy on the team, Matt Noakes, is a week younger than you, but you show up. You're 17 years old, right?
Yeah.
When you show up there,
Right.
what's that like?
Whew. It was wow.
Short season ball, right? So it's
Short
not like you're
season
showing
rookie
up late.
ball.
You're showing up with everybody else.
Yeah, short season rookie ball, Pioneer League. And I tell you what, I found out really quickly that this isn't high school anymore. I was playing with the best of the best in the country from the 1981 draft. Guys from Florida, guys from New York, guys from California, guys from Illinois. I went from my senior year of high school, where I was just, doing really, really well, to a 2-6 record with, I think my area was like 4.3 or 4.6 or something. And I remember on bus rides, like crying, like saying, "Oh, I'm never going to make it to the big league."
Right, right.
Right. Just getting it handed to me. And, talk about making adjustments and stuff. But, hey, time went on. And, like I said, I didn't turn 18 till October.
Right.
So,
your birthday is 3 days. I mean, you're considerably older than I am, but you and I share that late birthday.
What are you,
You're
the
October
27th?
20th. I'm the 21st. You're the 24th of
Oh,
October.
okay.
I mean,
Gotcha.
I was almost always the youngest guy in my class, as I'm
Yeah.
sure you were too, with that November 1st cutoff back then.
Yeah, I should have actually been the class of 82, maybe even 83. Held back maybe a year or two. So,
Well, so you not that the ship was necessarily wrong in '81 in Montana, but you really get it together in Clinton the next year.
yeah.
What clicked? I mean, you had 70% more Ks than the second guy in the league that year.
Yeah.
Right, you had 243 Ks. The next guy had 160, something like that,
Yeah.
165.
I think I just had it in my mind of just going back to what I knew best, not trying to think too much. I think when I was in rookie ball, okay, I'm a pro now. I'm going to pitch once every 5 days. I gotta change things up a little bit. There's so much that goes through your mind because the dynamic has changed. I'm not pitching at Ingalls Park anymore. I'm in Lethbridge, Canada, pitching against the Dodgers. I'm in Calgary, pitching against the Expos. I'm in Billings, pitching against the Reds. And then I go to Clinton the next year, and it's like, you know what? I'm just going to rear back, and I'm just going to throw like I was throwing against West, like I was throwing against Central. And I'll make an adjustment from there. And my first few outings, I was like, okay, I'm just, sticking with what I know best, my strengths. And that was, I threw a fastball and I threw a big 12-6 over the hand hammer. And next thing you know, I was just cruising. It was an unbelievable year. You talk about athletes, Mike, getting in the zone, and it's like every fifth day I got the ball, and it was just like, I had it in my mind that they've got no chance.
Yeah,
that's the mentality that I had. And the numbers turned out pretty good.
So you mentioned the 12-6 Uncle Charlie. Why do we not see that over the top curveball as much now?
I think guys just go. It's just a pitch that it's harder to manipulate, I think, rather than a slider or a cutter. There are some guys like Dylan Cease throws the knuckle curve, which is a darn good pitch. There's maybe a few more guys that throw it now, but there was that era where it's almost cyclical, that, maybe it'll come back. But you see a lot of sliders, a lot of cutters, a lot of changeups. No such thing as a fastball count anymore. My goodness.
Right.
Back in the day, it was 2-0. Ooh, here comes the fastball. 3-1. Ooh, here comes the fastball. Not anymore. See you, Darvish, right? Who's fun to watch, by the way. You throws everything up there. But
right.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe because it's a harder pitch to manipulate. I remember learning how to throw it as a youngster. And then when I got into high school and pro ball, my philosophy was I just got up on top and bam, I just threw it as hard as I could, up on top over my head and bam. Try to split the plate. If it's off a little bit, right or left, it's going to catch a corner. If it's in the dirt with 2 strikes, maybe they'll swing at it. But it was just Mike, it was Iron Mike, the machines.
Sure. Iron Mike. Yeah. The Jim Palmer.
At Rivals.
Yep.
Right. Just over the top fastball, over the top curveball. And I didn't learn to change up till maybe a few years later after that.
What'd you throw? Circle?
Yeah, I kind of messed around with a circle change this way off the, and then when I was in Seattle in 93, I threw a 2-seam fastball, but then I just kind of threw a split finger as a changeup and just threw it like my fastball. Messed around with that a little bit, but I always felt comfortable more with like a circle change.
So you mentioned the split. I know that you didn't spend a ton of time under Roger Craig, but you did spend a little time, and he was certainly known as the guy back in the day for the split. Did you pick that up while you were with the Giants under Roger Craig?
I did. And it was kind of like one of those, didn't really feel comfortable throwing it. Didn't have much success with it. But Roger introduced it, and like he did for all of his pitchers. Very simple, just, and I've got big hands to where I can manipulate the ball and throw it like that. If I could try to do it again, maybe I would kind of experiment a little bit with my fingers, finger pressure, finger placement. The beauty of the pitch is it looks like a fastball, but it comes out a certain way, and maybe it comes out differently each and every time. So that's what gives it that. But if you leave it up in the zone, it's going to flatten out, could get hit like any pitch. But I think it's subjective, though. Some guys really have success with it. Some guys kind of like, really don't have that feel for it.
Why do you think that Bruce Sutter was able to be so successful with it, whereas other guys, like legions of guys, that just blew out their elbows? What do you think it was about Sutter?
I think he was just one of those guys that had that body chemistry and that arm action and that ability to throw that pitch and have success with it, just because I don't want to say he was lucky at it. Don't get me wrong by saying lucky, because there are some guys who could hold it the same way, try to throw it the same way, and not have the same effects of it.
Right.
But when he threw that pitch, I remember him watching him. He just had the right fingers, the right hand, the right placement, to where that ball just dropped off the table. And well, he was fun to watch, though, wasn't he?
Oh my God! Well, and I look back at some of the old film of Sutter. He still has not paused. Right? I mean, the guy could have got, in this day and age, would have gotten called for a balk every time.
Oh, I know. He never stopped. He never
stopped.
He just always went. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It was crazy. Well, so back in those days, you move on then from Clinton to Shreveport, where were there any expectations set for a Joliet Catholic grad in Shreveport based on what Dave Wilhelmy had done a couple of years earlier there?
Yeah. Willie and I were teammates.
I thought, but wasn't Dave a year ahead of you? When did he throw his
Joliet
perfect?
Catholic? No, he was 2 years ahead of me.
That's what I thought. He threw his perfect game before you got there, didn't he?
No, we were teammates.
Oh, we were? I didn't realize that.
It was in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I still remember that. And here's the deal. Willie is coming off the DL back then, the DL. He had a sore elbow. This would never happen today. Never. He's coming off the DL with a sore elbow, tendonitis. So he gets a start. He's rehabbing, working his way back. He gets a start in Little Rock, Arkansas. Well, in the minor leagues, we have a manager and a hitting coach. Manager coaches third base. I was a starter at the time. So I was not, obviously, Dave was starting that night. So I loved to coach first base, go out there and just kind of be in the game and, help the runners at first base or whatever. That was part of the minor league. A player would coach first base. So I'm coaching first base this night that Willie is pitching against the Arkansas Travelers, AA club for the St. Louis Cardinals. So Ray Winder Field, I still remember. I go out the first inning, we're up, okay, bottom of the first. One of my things was I always took, running across our dugout was on the third base side. So, after the inning, the catcher or the umpire would throw the ball out to the mound. So, I'd rub up the ball and just kind of toss it to the pitcher, coming to the mound. Hey, go get him, whatever. Okay, first inning, go get him, Willie. 1, 2, 3. I go out for the second inning. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, Willie, go get him. Third inning, 1, 2, 3. Fourth inning, 1, 2, 3. Fifth, sixth, seventh. So eighth inning start, bottom of the eighth. I get the ball. I look at Willie. I go get him. And then 1, 2, 3. And then I go out for the top of the ninth to coach, first base for our club. Now
I'm getting nervous as you're telling this story.
Last chance for the Travelers, right? Ninth inning, bottom of the ninth, their chance to hit. I go out to get the ball, and I'm rubbing up the ball, and Dave's and I'm rubbing up the ball, and I look up at Willie, and Willie just goes like this. So I toss him the ball. I say, "Go get him, Hoss." And 1, 2, 3. Rob Deere made a diving stab at a ball, a line drive in right field to for the last out to secure a perfect game. One of the most unbelievable things I've ever witnessed as a guy. First of all, coming off the DL, there was I don't know how many pitches. He must have threw, I don't know, maybe 90 to 100 pitches, if that. That would never happen today. Guy coming off
that's efficient. That's insane.
Yeah. So in fact, that would be a great game to look up on Baseball Reference. Dave Wilhelmy, one of the great minor league memories that I was glad to be a part of.
And a great basketball coach. AJ,
and a good basketball player too.
Yeah, he was a great basketball player. So Dave's younger brother AJ was a classmate of mine at St. Paul's. Helped my dad out the winters when he was playing minor league ball. He'd come back and he'd coach us with my dad. Dave, which was fabulous.
After his professional days of playing baseball, he went back to College of St. Francis University and played basketball for Pat Sullivan.
Remember that? Yeah. All right, so you get out of Shreveport, you go the next year, you're in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Was 84 your first spring training invite, or had you been invited earlier?
84 was my first spring training invite to the big league club, and broke camp with Phoenix, had 3 starts, got called up. 84, April 27th, 1984.
So April 27th, 1984, this cap not this cap, a cap very similar to this cap on Mark Grant's head. It's a Friday night. You're the Friday night guy, Riverfront Stadium.
Yeah.
Going up against Joe Price. Takes you less than an inning to give up 2 runs.
Yeah. I didn't get an out.
So
I gave up 2 runs before I got an out.
Well, so talk about, you end up flying in. Did you get in Thursday night late?
The day before.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at my apartment in Phoenix. We didn't have cell phones back then. I didn't have my phone set up in my apartment yet. Randy Kutcher was living down below me. He had his phone set up already. It was Thursday morning. He comes in and he says, he runs upstairs. He goes, "Hey, Mud." He goes, "I just got a call from Jack Mull." He was our manager. He says he wants to see you at the ballpark right now. I said, it's 9 o'clock in the morning.
So what are you thinking at this point?
I'm thinking I'm going to the big leagues. I'm thinking I'm driving my car to Phoenix Community saying, this is it. This is the call. So I get to the ballpark. It's 9:30 in the morning now. And Jack was a baseball rat. He was a coach for the Giants for many, many years, manager, and the minor leagues. And he might as well just live at the ballpark. So I show up at the ballpark at 9:30 in the morning, and he's already in his shorts and t-shirt and stirrups. And I walk in the clubhouse. I go, "Hey, Jack." He goes, "Pack your bags, big boy. You're going to the big leagues." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you're starting tomorrow night, Cincinnati." I go, "Oh my gosh." So I go to his office, get on his office. I said, "Can I call my dad?" He's at work. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I misdialed 3 times. I was like, misdialed. So I finally get through to him.
Well, your fingers had to be doing this, right? Whether it was rotary or push.
It was touchdown, but I misdialed like 3 times. And I finally get to his office. They patch me through to him, and I say, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing tomorrow night?" He goes, and he kind of, "Nothing." "Why?" He goes, I said, "Because I'm pitching in Cincinnati tomorrow night." He goes, "Oh my gosh, congratulations." And just, so now I'm scrambling, got to go back. I call my mom at home, go back to the apartment, pack, got a flight to Cincinnati, fly in that day, and then didn't sleep. My first roommate at the hotel, remember we were talking about roommates earlier?
Yep.
Johnny Rabb. Remember John Rabb, the catcher?
Boy, I remember the name solely from baseball cards from
Yeah.
back in those
Yeah.
days.
Johnny Rabb was my first roommate, first night in the big leagues. Did not sleep a wink. Starting the next day at Cincinnati Riverfront Stadium.
So you show up.
Yeah.
You're throwing to not Johnny Rabb. You're throwing to future major leaguer Bob Brenly.
Bob Brenly was my catcher that night. Yeah. I get to the clubhouse, get dressed, hang around, nervous. Dusty Baker was a teammate of mine. He was in the trainer's room. I walk in the trainer's room. He goes, hey, he goes, you're not scared, are you? I go, no, I'm not. I go, I'm a little nervous. He goes, go, okay, you can be nervous, but don't be scared. He goes, Dusty was great. I love
That's
that.
a great way. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Dusty was great. So we had a meeting. Okay, hey, pitching coach Herm Strutt called me. He goes, let's go to Frank's office. Frank Robinson was my manager. He goes, you and Brenly meet in Frank's office. Go over the hitters. I said, okay. So I'm sitting in the office with Bob and Herm, and Frank's behind his desk. And he goes, okay, Eddie Milner, Dwayne Walker, Ron Oster, Nick Asaski, Dave Concepcion. We're going over the hitters. And it's like in one ear, out the other. So anyway, we get done and we leave the room, and Brenly puts his arm around. He goes, hey, don't worry about what Frank said. I'll just put down the numbers and you throw to my glove. I go, okay, good. We're on the same page. So I go out, I mean, this is Riverfront Stadium. This is where the Big Red Machine was. And it's like, being a baseball geek that I was, those were the things that were going through my mind. So I go out for the bottom half of the first inning, and I, go down, look at the rubber, and I'm like, whose feet are these? I can't feel my legs. This is right. This is a big league mound. This is Riverfront Stadium. So I do a little manicuring and get things, whatever, throw my first pitch. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. It was kind of like a force. I kind of forced it, just couldn't really let it go. So first hitter, Eddie Milner, ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, ball 4. Oh, great. And then Dwayne Walker.
You give up a stolen base to Eddie Milner.
Yeah.
Did you remember he was there or not?
I did.
All
Yeah,
right.
I did.
Well,
yeah.
so you're skipping
and Dwayne
somebody
Walker
before.
hits the home. Dwayne Walker hits the home run.
Yeah, but what happened between Eddie Milner and Dwayne Walker? Pop out to right field.
Pop out to right field. That's right.
Hit by whom?
It was Ron Oster.
And what happens next?
He goes to the dugout, and I get ready to. Did Oster hit second? Okay, Oster. So Walker hit third.
Yep.
Okay. I stand corrected. I go back, get on the mound, and all of a sudden I hear Joe Youngblood's playing third base, and he yells at the top of his lung. I'm not going to say it here, but he yells, he got you out, you MFer.
Yep.
And I'm like,
and what's Oster chirping about at this point? Any idea?
He's just in the dugout. He's trying to get in my head. He knows I'm a rookie. He's just trying to get in my head, and he's pacing. And so I look over to the dugout. He's pacing in the dugout, like yelling, pointing. So I get out of that inning. Walker hits the home run. Right.
What'd you throw?
Probably a fastball.
Something not good enough. By
the way, we looked this up. Dwayne Walker. I was like, oh, Dwayne Walker. Who the heck is Dwayne Walker? Look at his numbers. He hit some home runs off of Gooden, Ryan, the home runs he hit off in his career. So it didn't make me feel so bad that Dwayne Walker.
Right. You're in good company.
So anyway, the next I get out of that inning and I go to the dugout, and Scotty Thompson, Joe Youngblood, and I think it was Mike Kruko came up to me, and they said, hey, next time Oster comes up, brush him off the plate. I go, okay, all right. If I get that far. So he comes up to the plate, and I nail him in the ribs. So he throws his bat down, kind of walks out of home plate, bench is clear. No punches were thrown. He goes to first base. Then I come up the next time. My first at bat, Joe Price hits me in the leg. bench is clear again. No punches thrown. Okay, got the message across. So I went 6 innings, got the loss, and yeah. Do you know the story after the game?
I don't.
My mom and dad were there in attendance. So I meet my mom and dad after in an area where the families were, and give them a hug and stuff like that. And my dad puts his arm around. He goes, "Hey, wait." He goes, Mark. He goes, "Some guys are major league debuts. They throw shutouts. Throw a one hitter or whatever. You had 2 bench clearings." So it's good. I can always tell that story now to people about my.
Well, you listen. Your dad always was really good with perspective.
Yeah, he had a good sense of humor, and yeah, so lighten the mood a little. But it was great. It was a great experience. Wouldn't change it for anything.
Well, so you end up going back down to Phoenix. You kind of shuttle back and forth later that year. You spend all of 85 in the minors, come back up in 86. But before we get to that, so in 84, when you come back up towards the end of the season, Frank Robbie is no longer there. Danny Ozark is, and Danny Ozark hangs you with the name that you're known by to this day.
Well, that actually happened in spring training because Danny was.
Oh, it did. Okay, I thought it happened at the end of the year.
Yeah, he was our third base coach, and he was a great baseball man. You know what? I look back, and I was so fortunate to look at some of the coaches that I had. Frank Robinson was my first manager, 2-time MVP each league. One time in the American League, one time in the National League. Just Hall of Famer. And then Danny Ozark, who was a great manager, managing the Phillies all those years. Don Buford was a coach. Tom McCraw was a coach. Herm Stroh was our pitching coach. But anyway, during spring training, Danny Ozark would hover around first base, infield area during PFPs, pitchers fielding practice, hit the fungo to first. Hey, get over there, cover first base. Same old stuff every single year, right?
You know what? So Dennis Lamp never learned to do that.
Dennis Lamp.
The things you remember is the things you remember growing up, right? Dennis Lamp, 47, guy still hasn't covered first base.
That's funny. That's a great reference. That's a great pull, Dennis Lamp. I love that. So I would cover first base, and coaches do some encouragement and some shouting and yelling and stuff. All right, way to go, Mudcat. And I thought, and I kind of looked at it. I go, hey, I kind of gave him an affirmative, because once again, being the baseball geek and fan that I was, I knew exactly who he was talking about. Jim Mudcat Grant, who had a great career, by the way, when you look at his numbers. So then that year, I go to Dodger Stadium with the team, and guess who's there at Dodger Stadium? Jim Mudcat Grant himself. So I got to meet him, got a picture taken with him, and we kept in touch ever since. He passed away, I think it was last year or the year before. But I tell you what, Mike, the sweetest man. We had some great conversations, and I was so lucky to get to know him and have him as a friend. Underrated career when you look at his numbers. He had a really, really good career. So that's how that came about.
So you get hung with the nickname. You're known as Mud or as Mudcat. You work your way through into 86, into 87. You move from the Giants to the Padres.
Yeah.
What was it like? You mentioned Mark Davis. Who else was part of that deal?
Mark Davis, me, Keith Comstock, and me, Keith Comstock. Oh, Chris Brown. For Dave Dravecki, Craig Lefferts, and Kevin Mitchell.
I'm thinking 2 left-handers. I'm thinking Mitch making the barehanded catch.
Yeah, who became an MVP with the Giants.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will say this. I wanted to be a Giant for life because I was drafted by the Giants, made some good friends with the Giants. And the Giants gave me every opportunity to be a starter and be a consistent starter. I dropped the ball. I think 85 and 86 were lost years for me. As I look back, could I have done some things differently? Probably, because, I got called up at 84. And for me personally, it was like, I should have, I don't know what the word is to use, but I should have made more of the opportunity. And then because 85 spent in the minor leagues, 86 in the minor leagues, got called up in September of 86. So those are 2 lost years for me, you know, to where I could have maybe done something. Blame nobody but myself. The Giants gave me every opportunity. I just didn't take advantage of it. And then 87 was in the rotation, made the club out of spring training. And then July came along, and that's when the trade came down. And it was probably the best move. Al Rosen even said, Roger Craig even said, hey, this is a great opportunity for you. They wanted more of an experienced rotation, and they got some good pitchers. They got a really good player in Kevin Mitchell. Dave Dravecky was a great starter. Lefferts was a good pitcher. Mitch was lights out. And the guys who went to San Diego got a great opportunity. And that opportunity led me to 3 years in San Diego. I now make my home there and love it. Love every minute of it.
What was it like playing for Larry Boa?
Oh, I love Larry. Larry, man, talk about one of the best baseball minds out there. I firmly believe that. As far as X's and O's and stuff, one of the best. As an evaluator, one of the best. As a gamer, one of the best. And self-admittedly, he said better as a coach than a manager. He was just too emotional. You know me, right? My personality. When I was a starter, I had 4 days to mess around and have fun and yuck it up on the bench. So I remember one game I'd thrown the night before, got the win, threw a shutout in San Diego. I'm in the dugout messing around with Eric Nolte, who was a left-handed pitcher. It wasn't his night. So we're, playing grab ass in the dugout and just, yucking it up and having fun. And Boa looks down. He goes, "Hey, Mud." I go, "Hey, what's up?" He goes, "Why don't you just go home the 4 days you don't pitch and just show up the days you start? You're killing me." So I just laughed and sat down and whatever. So till this day, when I see Larry, we always tell that story. But I loved playing for Larry because he cared and he
Right.
wanted guys to succeed. And you look at his career, he weighed 100 and nothing. And he was one of the best shortstops of his era. And he battled. He was a good hitter. And you looked at him and said, there go, that guy played in the big leagues 16 years. Oh yeah, right. No, because he wanted the way he played the game, he wanted everybody else to play the game the same way. And you can't blame
Absolutely.
him. You can't blame him.
And I feel like that's a real struggle for some guys when they go in and manage. I mean, I remember when Rhino was a skipper in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Ryan Sandberg, unbelievable athlete, right? Hall of Famer, battling and hopefully winning against prostate cancer right now. It's got to be tough for a guy like Rhino who has all this natural ability, where you see guys with a bunch of natural ability who either aren't committed to the game or don't know how to unlock that skill. And then you look at a guy like Larry Boa who punched above his weight and was a baseball lifer, 16 years in the bigs.
Yeah, no, that's a good comparison. There's a lot of guys like that. I think going back to Frank Robinson, I think he was that way too. Frank was such a good player, and Ted Williams, I guess, was the same way. He didn't understand because those guys were so talented, and when they saw guys that didn't, pull their weight, so to speak, and they just couldn't get it through their heads. And not a bad thing. I mean, not a bad thing, but Larry, like I said, what was great about him is that, not only is he's a great friend, but he realized what it took to become successful and wanted that for his players.
So towards the end of your tenure in San Diego, Jack McKeon's there.
Yes.
And then Trader Jack moves upstairs, and it takes him one day to pull the trigger on a deal, and you happen to be that deal.
All-Star break 1990. We work out at then Jack Murphy Stadium. We jump on a plane. We go to Pittsburgh to start the second half of the season. Go to bed that night. My phone rings in my hotel room once again, no cell phones. At 10 o'clock in the morning, my phone rings. I answer it. He goes, "Hey, Mud, Jack McKeon." I go, "Hey, Jack." He says, "We just made a deal with the Braves and you're part of it." I said, "Wow." I said, "Okay." Here's Bobby Cox's number. He is the general manager of the club. Give him a call. It's okay. Hey, thanks for everything. Appreciate it. And so I call Bobby, touch base with him. See you later tonight. Fly to Atlanta from Pittsburgh in uniform that night, and pitched actually in that game.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was, second time now being traded. So it's kind of like, okay, I've been through this before, but got a great story about that though. I'm in the hotel lobby in Pittsburgh. I got my bags packed. I'm waiting for a cab. Walks Gary Templeton, Marvell Wynn. They're like going out to lunch. It's around 11:30 or so now, 12. So Tempe, who I love, the captain, love the cap. He's great. He's walking by me. He goes, "Hey, Mud." He goes, "Where are you going?" I go, "I got traded." He goes, "Nah, come on." I go, "Yeah, I got traded." He goes, "To who?" I go, "The Braves." So he's pausing. He goes, "We play those guys. We play you guys next week, right?" I go, "Yeah, I think so." He goes, "Well," he goes, "You know what? I'm having trouble with that. Is this edited or what? Can I swear on this?"
Go ahead. I may bleep you. I may not to. You're Mark Grant. You can say what you want on
He
here.
goes, "I'm having trouble with that dick high fastball about middle in."
That takes me back to is it Steve Carlton
Yeah.
interview, which I won't go into, but yeah, what did he pitch? What did he hit? Fastball.
Oh
High.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I know the term, but,
Yeah.
but Tempe, and then we chuckled about it, and then but anyway, so I went on to Atlanta, and yeah, and that's pitched in 90, and then got hurt in 91 World Series. Just another missed opportunity because I got hurt. But
Wait,
anyway,
and what happened? So it's shoulder surgery in 91, right?
shoulder, went to camp. Yeah, I was all ready to go, in great shape, and all of a sudden in spring training in 91, I kind of feel this discomfort in my shoulder, and you know do the whole trainer thing, exercises, ultrasound, all this stuff to try to go out and throw again, and it's just not responding. I remember pitching in Fort Lauderdale against the Yankees in a spring game. I could not break a pane of glass, and my shoulder was just hurting. I would get up here to accelerate, and it would just bam, like somebody stabbed me right there. And I remember pitching to Don Mattingly was at the plate, and catcher put down fastball, and I threw it as hard as I could, but it came out like a changeup, and Mattingly rolled it over to second base, way out in front of it, right? And he's thinking, "Well, he threw me a changeup." No, Donnie, that was a fastball. And so then after that, I said, "Hey, something's not right." Long story short, ended up having surgery. It was a torn labrum in my shoulder.
Mm.
So then it was out the whole year. Got to experience though the 91 World Series though in that run from worst to first, and that was unbelievably electric and fun. And what a great year that was.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that think of the Glavins and Smoltzes. I think Steve Avery that year. I mean,
Yeah. Steve Avery came up, and he was a young kid that just was
dazzled.
Just a bull, just snorting, steam from his nose as a left-hander, and just dominated. That was fun to watch the progression of him, and then also Smoltz too, because he struggled early in the year, and then how he turned it around, and then just dealt in the playoffs. That was quite a run, quite a run.
So what happened with the Braves? How did you end up in Seattle in 92?
Well, I got hurt in 91. I was out the whole year because of the shoulder surgery.
Right.
And the Braves were willing to bring me back. John Sherhill said, if I was a free agent then at the time. And I was looking at opportunity after being hurt. The Braves were pretty well stacked. And I was thinking, I was unproven after my surgery. I did not pitch the whole year. Kind of look for a team that maybe needs some pitching. So I talked with my agent, and came to the conclusion that we got in contact with the Mariners. So called the Mariners, got it all set up, went to spring training, big league camp, and I was healthy, throwing the ball good, and they knew that, and they knew that I had big league experience, and went to big league camp. But they said, "Hey, we want to start you in Jacksonville, Double A." weather's better. You're going to start once every 5 days, and go do what you can do. So pitched really well in AA, got called up to Calgary AAA, had a few starts, had a little bit of a setback, which was no big deal, and then got called up. Can't remember, Mike, what day it was. Maybe it was in June or July of 92. And then spent the rest of the year up in Seattle and pitched great, felt great. Loved pitching in the Kingdome. In fact, I remember my first game back to the big leagues, back in the saddle, was against the White Sox in the Kingdome. Carlton Fisk popped up to left field, and I was like, I remember going back in the clubhouse and saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm back. I can't believe I made it back." And it was like, it's the old adage, something's taken away from you, and then all of a sudden you don't realize what it is. Don't know what you got until it's gone, right?
Right, exactly.
And it was just like, I remember in my locker just crying, saying, "Oh my gosh, I made it back. Now I got to stay. Now I got to stay
Right,
here."
right.
So no, it was great. It was we were terrible, but we led the league in fun. That's for sure. I love that team. 92 Mariners. Gosh, we had Tino Martinez, Harold Reynolds, Omar Vizquel, Mike Blowers, Kevin Mitchell, Ken Griffey Jr., Jay Buhner, Dave Valley, Randy Johnson, Eric Hansen, Mike Schooler.
How did that team not win a couple of World Series?
I know. Well, we couldn't score any. I mean, bad pitching. Had pretty good. Had a decent offense. I'd have to look at that though. Our pitching, even though Randy Johnson had a so-so year, but we couldn't pitch, and that was one of the reasons for that.
Well, so Seattle tells you what they think of you by letting you move on to Houston the next year.
Yeah, I became a free agent again, and that's that year. Bill Plummer, who recently just passed away, by the way.
Yeah, I just saw that.
He was my manager, and then he got fired. He got let go, and then Lou Piniella came in. So then Lou got new coaches and different players and stuff. And I thought Seattle was willing to bring me back too. So then I signed with Houston, another great team as far as fun is concerned. Boy, that was
well. And I'm trying to remember. We used to go down to spring training every year for scouting for our rotisserie baseball teams back then.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm trying to think. 93 were Harnish and Schilling both on that squad?
Schilling was not.
Okay.
He was with Baltimore still.
Okay.
Pete Harnish, one of the funniest guys, greatest teammates. We had Schilling, we had Harnish, Portugal, Draybeck, Swindell, Daryl Kyle.
DK. Like, great.
We had a great team, talented team. But in the short time I was there before I got traded to Colorado, we had so much fun. We had Biggio, Bagwell, Caminetti, Scott Service, Luis Gonzalez, who could be one of the greatest guys ever, Steve Finley, Doug Jones. Who else was on that team? Casey Candell.
Doug, your mustache is eating your nose.
Yeah. Casey Candell, Xavier Hernandez. We had a great clubhouse. We had a really good clubhouse. That was a lot of fun.
So it's funny. I end up watching you and Don a lot, as you well know. Mm-hmm. Every time Luis Camposano's name comes up, I can't help but think of Doug Draybeck, because I don't know if you know this connection.
No.
So Draybeck is pitching either a no-no or maybe a perfecto into the ninth in his days in Philly. In his days in Pittsburgh. They're playing Philly. I'm at my parents' house for some reason. I think I don't even know what year this is, but down at mom and dad's, and we're watching something. I mean, there's no MLB network. We must be watching, right, Friday Night Baseball or Saturday Night Baseball or something. And they break in live to this game where Pittsburgh and Philly are playing because they're in the ninth. And I think Draybeck was perfect. Still Camposano comes up and drops just a little bleeder bloop in to break it up. And every time I see your catcher these days, Luis, I can't help but think of Sil Camposano breaking up Draybeck's, what I think was a perfecto.
Yeah, it's funny how the game of baseball, certain names just bring back certain memories. There's no doubt. I think of Doug Brayback, and I think first pitch of the game, a breaking ball. That was it. He did that. If you notice that, and then I started doing it later on when I came back when I was with the Cubs as a starter in the AAA in Iowa. I said I was at the point in my career where I was like, I've gotten this far. I'm going to start mixing it up a little bit and have a little fun and just do things differently. And I thought of Doug Drayback. He get to start first pitch of every game, get me over slider.
Well, so you mentioned earlier there's no such thing as a fastball count anymore.
Right.
And I was thinking about it then. Would you on 2031, would you ever do anything other than dead red? Would you throw that big 12,
as I got older, I did.
Yeah. How about younger? No, just you can get away with your fastball.
I didn't have the confidence in it. You know, I'd had to locate a fastball, which is something I didn't do till much later. And that's another thing I would kind of change in my career if I could go back. Is I came up as a hard throwing right hander, over the top curveball, fastball, upper 90s, yacker, and I would have developed some type of changeup. And I would not have deviated from that because later on in my career, I kind of dropped my arm angle, sinker slider type guy, and out of the bullpen, just a non-factor middle relief setup guy. If I could go back and change, I would stick with what got me there, right?
Yeah, dance with the girl that brung you, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway.
Well, so feel free to avoid this question. You've never been a guy to avoid questions, but I understand this can be kind of sensitive these days. Seeing a lot of arm injuries right now, and the union is griping about the pitch clock, which I have issues with. Right? I mean, the guys at the union, you guys, everybody. There's a lot of people out there that know a lot more about baseball and pitching biomechanics than I do. I don't think 2 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever between pitches is the thing that is shredding guys' arms.
I don't think so either.
Okay, so
I don't think it's a clock issue.
What do you think it is?
I think it's I think it's an all or nothing. It's a red line thing, and you've heard one of the guys who's a friend of mine who John Smoltz is very opinionated and vocal on this matter. And I think John's got some really, really good points. Everything, it seems like nowadays with breaking ball league and redlining, meaning it seems if you watch a game, it seems like every pitch is like the pitch of the game.
Right.
And it's like red line. Whereas when I was pitching, there were some times when I was throwing 75%, 80%, trying to hit my spot. It wasn't like rare, and maybe when I was younger, but as I got older and learned how to pitch, I need to locate this slider. Okay, I'm gonna nice and firm, not 100% though.
Right.
He didn't throw every pitch 100%. It seems like nowadays every guy is 100%, and maybe you can even flip back to earlier in their careers where it's all baseball, year-round baseball. Maybe they take some time off, but that's why I'm a firm believer. And I don't mean to be the guy yelling at the clouds or get off my lawn, but I'm a firm believer of playing other sports.
Sure, absolutely.
Because your arm can only take so much. Is it subjective? Yes, there are some guys who play baseball, nothing but baseball, and pitch for ever since 12 years old, and they end up pitching 15 years in the big leagues. But we do see a rash of arm injuries, and I think it's because of that reason.
Well, and I think at some point,
I should say one of the reasons, not the reason, one of the reasons.
Well, to be successful at your level, to be successful at Nolan Ryan's level, or to be successful at any level, you need to have been blessed genetically, and then be able to capture that and do something with that. And as much as I think the Rapsodos and all the the pitch labs that are out there, they're helping guys become better pitchers rather than just throwers. But to your point about redlining, the fact that every bullpen now, guys are at 100% or more. Yeah. I mean, in your day when you threw a bullpen, when did you throw your bullpen? Second day after a start?
I would start, I'd take a day off. Wouldn't touch a ball. I would run a lot. And then the next day kind of play long toss. And then on the third day, just kind of like a touch and feel type session, hitting my spots. And then maybe for me, maybe have a guy stand in there like the last 10, 15 pitches or so, simulate an at bat and kind of like game mode, bam, bam, bam. But the other ones are just nice, mechanics, getting that feel, getting the spin. It wasn't like, getting loose and then all of a sudden,
Right. So you're humping it
100%.
up for maybe a dozen pitches.
If that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you end up late in your career. You don't play in 94. I heard you were asked to be a replacement player and you
Yeah.
said, I'm not going down that path.
Yeah.
You
It's
throw
amazing how they were looking for replacement players, and I had like 15 clubs call me, "Hey, want to come pitch? Oh, where were you when you needed? Where were you when things were normal?
right.
Now you want me to now." And granted, I don't judge guys that cross the line and want to play. Hey, I have no problem with that. That's not me for my decision. I remember calling because being a Cub fan growing up, I thought if this is going to be my last hurrah, I want to pitch for the Cubs. So I called Jim Hendry and Jim Riggleman, and I told them, I said, hey, this might be my last go around. I was hurt last year. I want to come to camp with the Cubs in the minor leagues, not pitching the replacement games and try to make the Des Moines team, make the Iowa AAA club. And it was really refreshing listening to them because they said, hey, we know you've been in the big leagues 6+ years. And you don't want to cross the line, that's understood. And I said, fine, that's the way I want to go about it. Come to Mesa and try to make the Iowa team. I did that, broke camp with the Iowa team. They asked me many times, other coaches would come in, hey, we need pitchers for the replacement game. I said, no, keep walking. No, sorry. And went to Des Moines and pitched there. And then ended up getting hurt again. But anyway.
Well, and so I had forgotten this, but while I was watching the games in Korea earlier this year, you and Don were talking about your very brief four-way with the Chinese Professional Baseball League in Taiwan.
Yes.
How'd that come about? And obviously it didn't last very long, but how'd it come about? And talk a little bit about your experience over there.
Yeah, the year in Iowa, 95, pitching really well. Gosh, this is kind of a heartbreaker for me. I'm pitching really well. Ron Clark is our manager, and the Cubs needed pitching, but that particular year, their
Cubs
pitching.
have always needed pitching
Yeah,
every
that's true.
single
That's
year.
true. Yeah. But that particular year, they were pitching really well in the rotation, and I was pitching well in Iowa. So Ron Clark calls me in his office. He goes, "Hey, Mud," he goes, "I just want to tell you," he goes, "You're doing great and everything." He goes, "But if they need a pitcher, you're going to be the first one they call up." And I was like, "Okay, good." So I continue doing my thing, and all of a sudden my shoulder starts feeling a little fuzzy, a little raggedy. So long story short, I end up getting hurt. Couldn't bounce back. Had surgery again in 95, August. Tried to rehab that off season. Springtime comes around, can't sign with anybody. Nobody wants to touch me, which is, I wouldn't want to touch me. And so a friend of mine in San Diego put me in touch with a team in Taiwan to at least go over and see what I could do. President Lions was the team. Our team was in Tainan, which was, I forgot how far that was from Taipei. So anyway, quite an adjustment, culture, meeting new guys. Each team had like 2 or 3, to them, foreign players, whether it was like from the Dominican or Puerto Rico or United States. So I got to know some guys over there, and they had a rotating roster every week. They played Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays were practice and off days. So I got a chance to pitch. Just didn't click. And I went to the owner of the team and the translator. I said, "Hey, I'm not doing myself or the team any good. I think it'd be in the best interest to just send me home." So they sent me home, and that's when I looked into the broadcasting thing. So got the wheels turning on that.
Well, so I understand 2 of my favorite guys, who are also 2 of your favorite guys, had some input into you maybe ending up in the booth, Kruk and Kite.
Yes. teammates of mine back in the day. They had been in the booth for a while. I talked to them. They said something maybe you should pursue. And that I did. So I came back home to San Diego and talked to our broadcast director at the time, and they were doing some games on cable. They were only doing like 40 games. And I called them. I said, hey, I'm hanging them up. I live in San Diego. Was wondering if there'd be any games maybe available to do, because Bob Chandler, who's a dear friend of mine, who I owe a lot, was doing the play-by-play. He'd been in San Diego since the early 70s. And they were having a rotating chair for color analysts. So I put my name in the hat. I called our broadcast director. I said, hey, I'd like to put my name in the hat. Sure, I'll get back to you. I said, oh, okay. So the phone rang. About a week later, I said, hey, we got 3 games against the Astros. Would you want to do it? I said, sure. So, and I've never done TV. Sure. So talk about learning, on the job. Did 3 games, 3 turned to 6, 6 turned to 12. Ended up doing 12 games that year. And then after that off season, Channel 4 came in. They got the rights. Larry Lucchino, the president of the club, got rights, negotiated with Channel 4, did the whole interview process, gave them my resume tape, and been there ever since, Mike.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
does Don have good health insurance, I hope? Because you've worked with some guys who are no longer with us.
Yeah, good health insurance. We're both team employees, so it works out well. Yes. Very
Good.
lucky. Very good.
So I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Tony Gwynn.
Wow. How much time we got? Tony was great. Tony and I, we actually became better friends as broadcasters. Tony did his own thing as a player. I mean, we were friends and talked a lot. I wanted to pick his brain, and learn about hitting as much as I could, and then watch him play a Gold Glove right field. In fact, till this, I remember Tony telling me back in the day, he was most proud of his Gold Gloves than he was his batting titles, because he came up as a right fielder. He wasn't the best outfielder. He worked at it, and when he achieved the Gold Glove, he said that was his most prized possession and achievement, which I thought was pretty cool. Winning 8 batting titles, and then winning his Gold Gloves. So just a guy who loved baseball, wanted to get better, just hit and hit and hit. There were some times when Tony would go in the batting cage, he'd take 2 swings. He'd say, okay, I'm good. He didn't want to overdo it.
That's how you know you're feeling it.
Yeah, and and then there were times when he after a game, he would go to one of the local batting cages in San Diego and pop some quarters in the machine and on his way home, and
Iron Mike, just like being at Rivals.
Yeah, trying to get his stroke right. So that's just he was great. He was great to watch.
Well, so you've been at this 28 years. Seems like a long time.
This is my 29th season.
Seems like a long time. You don't seem like you're losing any steam. I saw you and Don playing with the removable beanies.
Yes, the removable palm.
Yeah, those that looks like it's a fun giveaway.
April 29th, be there, get one.
So you're obviously not letting grass grow under your feet. You've got a full broadcast schedule. I know that you're doing a bunch of charity work in and around San Diego.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I've been in San Diego since the trade, which was 1987. So I make my home there, have a wonderful wife, 3 wonderful kids. And
hey, is Andrew working for you guys? Did I see him either in Korea or somewhere in a game?
Yes, Andrew is the manager of fan engagement and entertainment. And he loves his job. He's down on the field, kind of helps like influencers and celebrities at the games, in the suites, before games first pitch, amongst a bunch of other things that they got him doing too. So he loves being at the ballpark, doing his thing. My middle boy, Aiden, who'll be 27 in November, he has special needs. He has Down syndrome. He's autistic. And then my daughter, he's with us all the time. And then my daughter is 25, who works in the medical supply business. So no, things are great. And I always thought, being in a city, wanting to give back a little bit and being involved. So the Down Syndrome Association, because of my son, Aiden, just other charities in San Diego that, it's, since I'm there, and it's always, I've always been a firm believer of giving back to the community, and Children's Hospital is another big one in San Diego that I try to be involved with. So enjoy doing that type of stuff.
Well, I hope you keep it up, and I hope you and Don stay on the air for decades longer. It's great.
Decades, Mike.
Decades longer. Listen, being back in Chicago, the opportunity to watch you guys or Crooked Kipe from the coast on the late games, you can't overlook that opportunity.
Well, I appreciate it. And you being in, you're in what part of the Chicagoland area?
We're in Evanston, just north of Chicago.
Yeah. But I love some dear friends of mine. I mean, we get, the broadcasting announcer community is a brotherhood fraternity in itself. And I love Boog and JD, John Shambi and Jim Deshays. I can't say enough about those guys. When I have time, I love listening to those. It's funny because I love Wrigley Field, but I love listening to those guys. I'll put it on my phone when they're at Wrigley. But if they're on the road somewhere, it's not the same.
It's the audio mix. It is truly the audio mix.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the same. And to have those two guys at Wrigley doing a game and listening to them and watching on my phone is just, it makes my day. I just love those guys.
I bumped into, I went to the game Friday with one of my daughters, bumped into Coom on the way out. Hopefully
love the Coom dog.
Coom dog may end up being our next interview here on My Favorite Cap. So we'll see.
Is he Midwestern through and through or what?
We're all Midwestern. Some of us are more Midwestern than others.
He's the epitome, man. Just a guy's guy, loves baseball, loves people, fun to be around, always positive.
You've just described yourself. You've just described some kind of nice right there, Mark Grant.
Well, you're very kind. I appreciate that. And, Mike, I appreciate you having me on because it's, bringing back those memories and stuff of high school and the coaches and stuff that I'm going to be, I'm going to be talking about those guys, for the rest of my life. They're quite the influence.
Absolutely. And it's like, as I've told my girls, as I've told the players on their softball team, my dad will have been gone 6 years ago tomorrow.
Yeah.
People came out of the woodwork at Dad's wake that are guys that I played with, guys that played for my dad back in the day. And, I unfortunately missed your dad's funeral. My mom was there. She said it was crazy seeing everybody in their baseball jerseys.
They were lined up down the street. And one story I'll leave you with about my dad. Remember the movie The Sandlot?
Yeah, I did an episode on it last month because in fact about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, when that movie came out a long time ago, after the fact, my dad got a phone call at home, and it was from one of his former players. He played Pony League with him. He said, "Mr. Grant, I just want to let you know that I watched The Sandlot. It reminded me of you." And
that's awesome.
Stuff like that. I had the best. I know. I hope everybody can say that they had the best dad because I know you feel the same way. I feel I had the best dad. He was the best.
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
So tough to leave the interview here as we're breaking up, but maybe that's a good time to.
But you know what though, it's it's good we could talk about it and share those memories because like I said, if there's one thing I would wish, I hope that every kid, I know it's not the case and it's very sad, that had the chance to have dads like we did. And if there was something I would wish that every kid, son or daughter, to have a dad like we did. Plain and simple.
You're right.
Yeah.
All right, Mark Grant.
And it's not just the baseball stuff; it's the everyday life stuff.
Well, it's the lessons that they and moms taught us. Right? It's not just dad; it's mom.
Right. Exactly.
But it's the teamwork. It's you had to earn your way onto those Joliet Catholic teams, and there was no doubt that you earned your way on. And that may have been the last easy day for you. Right. That may have been the last team that was easy for you to make. And whether you're wearing this hat or whether you're wearing the team of your 13 or 14-year-old softball team, wear it with pride and take those lessons with you, take those lessons away. Cause they're going to serve you well later in life.
Yeah. And it's going to serve others well too. And it's going to go a long way. And they're going to pass it on, hopefully.
So massive thanks to Mark Grant. The first interview on My Favorite Cap may end up being the last. I don't know if I can top this, Mud.
Mike, it was great. As I mentioned, always love getting texts from you and talking baseball with you. I hope we cross paths soon. And I'm honored and flattered that the first to lead off. I've never led off in my life.
Oh, you know what? So sorry. You prompted a question here from me then that we didn't talk about. 1986, Phoenix. You have an OPS of 700. You hit a double and a triple. You were never a leadoff hitter. You got credit for a triple in 86.
Oh, you know what? Now that you mention that,
How did that happen?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up. Would that be on Baseball Reference?
It's not. I am going to look it up.
It's got my minor league numbers. It should
it does. No, yeah, you've got to do. How do you think I learned Baseball Reference? There's a double and a triple that year. I'm going to dig into newspapers.com and report back what we learned. But yeah, Mark.
Well, the outfielders must have collided and blew out their ACLs or something because a triple. Wow.
The only logical explanation right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that one up.
That or you were so late on a cut that it spun down the right field line and was still spinning as the guy went into the corner to pick it out.
Yeah. Wow. I'll have to look that one up.
Hey, safe travels.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. It's never soon enough, but really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Mike. Be well.
Thanks, Mark.
Peace and love. Peace and love. All right.